you have to stop evaluating yourself based on the place where you are now. So what might happen is you might come upon this situation, or you might encounter someone, or you might encounter something that makes you, like maybe by comparison, feel inadequate, all right, or feel like you ought to be ashamed of where you're at right now. But I think that I'm going to be able to actually talk you out of that really quick, because I believe that the real measurement of a person's character, for like by and large, is not really seen by the things they do on a proactive basis, but to a larger degree, it can be measured by the things they do on a reactive basis. Okay, like something just comes out of the woodwork that they didn't really plan on, and you get a chance to kind of see how they react to that. And I think that may actually be a little bit more of a gold standard as far as how you might evaluate what kind of a person you're really dealing with there. There's very, very few of us. I would make the argument that none of us really get to live life on our own terms. You might hear some talk about that and some encouragement to do that, like you got to get to a place where you're living on your own terms. But I would make the argument that we really never get to a place where we can do that. I mean, that's just not reality. You can choose to walk away from situations. You can choose to say, I'm not going to take ownership of that. You can choose to say, I'm not going to step up to in this situation or this space where I feel some responsibility. Yeah, you can do that. You can walk away. But again, I think the things that really determine, the things that really speak volumes about what kind of a person you're really working with is how they react when situations come up that they didn't expect, which is just, like speaking for life in general. How do they handle that? How do they handle obstacles that come up? How do they handle unexpected challenges? How do they handle catastrophes? How do they handle just like limitations that they intrinsically have? And I think based on those things, how they react, how they respond, really says more about what kind of a person they are. And so, if you're in this place where you're feeling inadequate, like if you're looking at this this situation, you're looking at this task, you're looking at this thing, and you're feeling inadequate, and you're saying, I just don't feel like I measure up. You need to stop evaluating yourself based on the place where you are now. And instead, you need to start thinking about the capacity that you have. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by capacity? Well, I would say capacity is comprised of two things. Okay? Capacity is comprised of two things. It's comprised of first, capability, like actually being able to do something, right? Like actually having the talent or having the skill to do something. And it's also, I would say, just as much comprised of having the heart to do something, having the willingness to do something, and wanting to really do it well. And I think a good example of this, I was in a customer service type of job, but it was a job where we took phone calls from the customers of a company, as well as from just some important high-ranking individuals in the company as well. And I remember there was a certain girl who made the comment. She said, "Well, I don't have a problem with talking to these important people. It doesn't bother me. Basically it's no big deal, right?" And I heard her say that, and the thing that came to mind was she's actually probably, having said that, she's actually probably the last person that we would actually want in the space of talking to these important individuals. Well, why is that? What you find is that people who view a task, who view a job as really being no big deal, have a tendency to perform in that capacity in a manner that is likewise not a big deal. And you know, what you find is that if they think that there's just nothing to this, there's probably going to be like nothing to the kind of job that they actually do. There's going to be nothing to the way that they handle this. They think it's no big deal, and so the way that they're going to be carrying this out is likewise going to be no big deal. Whereas if on the flip side of that, if you're working with someone who is actually kind of intimidated by this task or intimidated by this situation, and they aren't really sure if they're quite up to it, well, that says one of a few things there. One thing that it says is that maybe their scope of what is actually involved in this job, involved in this task, is actually bigger than the person who thinks it really isn't any big deal, right? For a person to be intimidated by a certain task or a certain role, one thing about that is they probably perceive a need for this role to be done extremely well. Right, and so I'll say that again. That if someone is intimidated by a certain task or a certain position, that probably means that in their heart they feel that somebody should be doing this task extremely well. And there are elements to what they see make up the task that really are pretty big. Okay, so based on that, if you have a person who feels a little bit intimidated by a particular task, take that task on, I would say there's actually a greater likelihood that they're going to significantly outperform someone who just kind of sees the task as really being no big deal. In the same way, you have to see the value in yourself as being someone who's intimidated by a certain role. You have to see the value in yourself just based on the fact that you feel inadequate, because that signals the fact that you have the capacity to actually do a better job in this role than somebody else who thinks it's just no big deal. So you need to stop evaluating yourself based on the place where you are now. You need to stop, looking to someone who is like, maybe knocking this out of the park, right? And actually being disappointed in yourself for not, similarly doing that on a proactive basis. Because, again, like I said, the greater measurement of a person is how they're going to react. And when you see someone that's highly successful in a particular area, the chances are there have been things that have come their way that maybe have been a little bit different than the situations that have come your way. They're reacting a certain way, and now when you're looking at them and you're feeling inadequate, now the situation has been presented to you, and you don't have anything to feel guilty about there. What you might want to think yourself is, I think that I could do that. I think I could do that. I think I have the capacity to do it. Instead of feeling guilty that you haven't already attained the level that someone else has, okay? Instead of feeling guilty that you haven't attained the level that someone else has, what you really should be examining is your capacity to actually meet or excel the place where this person that you're observing has already gone. Because you got to think, guys, again, the greater measurement of a person's character is how they react to certain things and how they rise to the occasion when they're presented with certain criteria. And what might be the case with this person that you're kind of measuring yourself against, they might have just walked into it. That can happen. They might have just walked into this space, and so your place is not to feel inadequate or to feel intimidated because of the fact that you're not already in the same space that they're in. But they might have just walked into it, right? And you might not have had the criteria available for yourself, to see or to grab onto that they had. You understand what I'm saying? But now that you have that criteria, now the question is how you are going to react, okay? How you're going to respond, how you're going to rise up, okay? And really, okay, you got to get out of this mindset of feeling guilty because you're not already there. What you have to be thinking about is, okay, now here's the target. Now how am I going to just dig in and just actually make, progress to get to that target? Because I have the capacity to, because I have the heart to do this well, because I realize, what a big deal it is to actually be filling this role, and because I'm intimidated by it, because I think this role is actually a big deal, maybe I have what it takes to actually do it better than it's ever been done.